main event, which was really the fight that mattered the most, of course. That fight was important, but the main event being Terence Crawford and Kell Brook. Crawford getting a fourth round knockout of Kell Brook. And catching him with a fucking jab. Just caught him with a little rock back jab. He was a little rock, pa. Brook was kind of on the way in, and you could see he just didn't see it. He just didn't see it. It completely buzzed him. He had no legs. When he got up, you could see the look in his eyes. And what was interesting was that for the first 3 rounds or so, Brook was kind of outboxing him a little bit, which Crawford is a slow starter, like a lot of great fighters. Getting a look, getting a read on what you do, what you fall for, what you flinch at, all of those things. But Brook was, I thought, presenting an elusive, confident, fast, assertive opponent. You know what I mean? He was throwing a nice jab. They would have these little jab wars where he would jab and then Crawford would counter jab and then he would counter the counter. And Brook was beating him in that little jab war. And it kind of just seemed like they were just warming up a little bit. That's what was so jarring about it. Was that Brook seemed maybe even a little more comfortable than Crawford. But that's the thing about Crawford, is that, and I said this last week during the prediction, he's always got another gear. He's always got another gear. And now you see it against this level of opponent. It only further authenticates it. Because this guy, Kell Brook, I think he's a tremendous fighter. He's got a lot of skills. He's got a lot of different things he can go to, man. He's got a great jab. He's got great feet. He's got really good speed. And this kid, all it took was a jab to hurt him. The guy went 11 rounds with Errol Spence, went 12 rounds with Sean Porter. The jab from Terence Crawford is what takes him out. You know what I mean? I think it speaks to Crawford's power, his versatility, his explosiveness, and just overall the quality of fighter that he is. I think that doing that to that opponent, you can't. It doesn't get much better than that to me. I really do think Kell Brook is a really tough opponent for anybody at welterweight and honestly at junior middleweight. He's a big guy. But to me, in my mind, I never had questions about Crawford's skill, but seeing it against this quality opponent, for me, seals the deal. Like, he's everything they say he is and more, to be honest. I think that you look at how abrupt the ending of this fight was. Dude, there's nobody touching this guy. I'm telling you, there's nobody touching this guy. He's too smart. He's got too many gears. No matter what you do, he's got one more level he can go up. Here, physically, the whole thing, man. He's always got one more gear he can take it up to. And it's not his fault that he can't get all these PBC guys to see that they have to fight him. Because they do have to fight him. He's the best. He is undefeated. He has got a belt. He's often spoke about as the number one pound-for-pound fighter. So ultimately, if any of these PBC guys want to be the best, they're going to have to fight him. Now, I don't know if they're just going to round robin with each other until there's one more man standing, and that's going to be the guy that they put in with Crawford. I don't know what the strategy is on that front. I don't really understand why they won't fight him. I understand that they probably feel like they're going to get beat, or but none of them are scared. None of the fighters are scared. It's the management. So I imagine that there's something about having this level of opponent that's very vindicating, but also, very frustrating that he can't seem to get all of these top guys at welterweight that are signed with PBC to get in the ring with him. So I just made a little shorthand list of guys that I really want to see him fight, and a bunch of them are obvious and maybe some of them aren't. The first one is obviously Errol Spence, right? Now, he's got a big fight with Danny Garcia coming up. That's not an easy fight at all. And maybe the better way of putting it is I think that the winner of Spence and Garcia has to be the primary target for Crawford. Like that's the fight that's got to get made. He has to fight the other top welterweight. Let's just assume that Errol wins, right? That's not a good thing to assume, but let's assume Errol wins. You know, Errol coming off a win against Danny, Terence coming off a win against Kell Brook. It's hard to. When are you going to get a better time to put this fight together? You know, Crawford's 33. I think he's got a lot of years left in the tank. To be honest with you, I think he's probably got more than Spence, just because of how little punishment he takes. So, Errol Spence, I think, would be my first choice. The second choice that obviously is, I think is obvious, is Manny Pacquiao. And, you know, Aram said they were close to putting that fight together. That's a fight promotionally that's made sense for years since they've both been signed with Top Rank. You know, you could see from Manny's side why they wouldn't want that fight, because of just that this guy's, you know, what it appears is that this guy's on a completely different level from everybody else. That's what it appears. They know that because they have that guy who used to be that guy that was on a different level from everybody else. They know what that looks like. But I don't think Manny's scared, and I think that Manny would give Terence a great fight. He's got a whole different set of shit that he brings to the table that Terence has never seen before, and experience that Terence has never seen before. So Manny Pacquiao would be my second choice. My third choice would be Josh Taylor. Partly because I think it's a fight that could get made, because you're not dealing with the PBC, you're dealing with the Zone, and you're dealing with Matchroom. Or no, you're not. You're dealing with ESPN, because he just fought the Thai kid on ESPN Plus. You know, Taylor's a very tall, rangy junior welterweight. I think that would fill out into welterweight very nicely. I think that he's got a level of boxing IQ that would make that matchup very interesting, and the height and the jab and the foot movement, the versatility of shit that he can do. I think that that's a much more interesting fight than people think. You know, maybe he's going to fight Ramirez first, but if that's a fight that can get put together quickly, fuck the Ramirez fight. Like, that's the fight. I think Josh Taylor and Terence Crawford is a great fight. And whoever can put that fight together should. That's my opinion, because I think it would benefit both of their careers greatly. My fourth choice is a little different also. I think Jermell Charlo. I think that Terence would have a much easier time getting guys at 154 to fight him, because I don't think they'll see him as a power punching threat. I don't think they'll see him as a knockout threat. And I think they will think that they would be able to use their size. And particularly Charlo being so confident, so brash, being such a hard hitter, coming off that great win against Rosario with the jab to the body. You know, I think Jermell Charlo and Terence Crawford is a very interesting fight. I don't think Crawford would look small at junior middleweight, to be honest with you. He's just such long arms, and his frame is I think, built for junior middleweight. I think he'd like maybe even unlock one more level. Like, I think he would still knock guys out at junior middleweight, honestly, just because his timing is so crisp. And then my fifth choice would be Arislandi Lara. Again, same argument for having a junior middleweight, but from the other side, you know, Lara being a very smart, calculated, technical fighter, very good chess player. I think it would be really interesting to see Crawford play chess at that level with somebody that size, who's done it against Canelo and Paul Williams and, you know, all these other top guys that Lara has fought, Jarrett Hurd. You know, Lara is maybe one of the smartest guys at 154, if not in boxing. And again, I just think that Crawford's going to have an easier time getting bigger guys to fight him. They're going to see it as less of a threat than somebody like Manny Pacquiao, who's 5'6" and has come up throughout his whole career from 108 pounds. You know, that's a harder. I think it's a harder sell to Pacquiao than it is to Charlo or Lara. And just for shits, I did a 6-man, and my 6-man on that would be Keith Thurman. I would love to see Terence and Keith Thurman fight. I think Keith, with the injuries and Keith's just been too inactive. I think he's a very talented guy that just has not been active enough, really, since he's been at championship level. You know, in the last 6 years or whatever. How many times has he fought? 4 or 5 times. It's just like he's not active enough. But I think that he's a tough out for anybody. Wins over Porter and Danny Garcia. You know, he's one of the very, very best at welterweight. You know, and just because he lost to Manny Pacquiao, that doesn't make you less of a fighter because you lose to Manny Pacquiao. So that fight to me is as relevant as it ever been, because Keith gave Pacquiao a great fight. Keith's been off for over a year and has had a lot of rest. His body's probably well rested. I think any of those opponents that they can get, along with any other top guy at junior middleweight or at welterweight with the PBC, you know, I think those are the level of fights that he has to take. He can't accept anything less than that anymore. He's a 33-year-old fighter who's proven it over and over and over and over and over. And I think the PBC welterweights, particularly after Danny and Errol get it on, they've run out of places to run. And they have to fight him. Point blank, period. And that's all I'm going to say about it.